This is our weekly meeting of the Tacoma Pierce County Coalition to End Homelessness. And why don't we get started with our meeting? Rosemary, would you like to kick us off?
Thank you, Rob. Can you all hear me? All right. Well, you know, we all know these are difficult times, and for myself, reciting a litany of the challenges can make me feel paralyzed. Some of our initial discussion here kind of raised that up. So I come here with you to see what we can do together. At the steering committee this past week, we had a robust discussion about the recent sweeps of encampments in our area, and we'll talk more about that today. What a heavily laden word that is, sweep. There are deeply troubling historical parallels when we think about the removal of Indigenous people from their lands, the lands on which we meet today and which have been shepherded by those folks forever. There's the image of clearing out the trash, places that are unsafe, filled with debris, and the inescapable image of people, humans, neighbors, being seen as trash or debris. There's the idea of sweeping under the rug, of making invisible, especially those whose trauma, destitution, lack of options is too much evidence of our failure of will to act decisively in the face of this trauma. These images are troubling, but as journalist and civil rights activist Ida B. Wells says about the racial injustice and lynching terror of her day that she made visible, the way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. So to center us today on our task, I ask that we take a moment to breathe into that claim about righting the wrongs, noting the movement of our breath, and to welcome the energy this offers to make visible and to act. So thank you all for being here today. I want to give you, for those of you who are new, just a little bit about how we operate in the meeting, and then welcome anyone who's new or returning. So we have a set of norms for operating with Zoom, and those ones are the typical ones of raising your hand using that hand function. Rob can see those better in terms of order of anyone wishing to speak. If you don't get through with that, wave your hand somehow and people will say to Rob, somebody's trying to get to say something. So do that, yes. Second, if you're not sitting there quietly listening to everyone and you need to do some other things, that's all fine, but turn off your video when you're gesturing about and on the phone call you need to make. And then we use the chat here as a place for networking, so it's not disrespectful at all to be typing away during presentations. This is a time for you to network, for us to network, for us to make connections. So that's really important. And then in terms of our community norms, speaking once and then letting other folks speak rather than speaking repeatedly. One really good idea is to put additional information in the chat after you've made a comment so that we can make sure everyone has a chance to speak since we're a large group. And so to speak up and to hold back both are important. So with that, if there's anyone new here today who'd like to introduce yourself, just your name, and if you're associated with a group, that would be great. Just raise your hand or unmute yourself. Either one will work for this part. All right, Jacqueline.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Meyer. I'm the new operations supervisor here at Pierce County Emergency Management. So I just wanted to introduce myself.
Welcome, Jacqueline. We're really happy to have you with the group. It's really important.
Excited to be here.
Caleb? Oh, you were just clapping. I thought you were you were introduced last week, and welcome. It's good to see you here too.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So Rob, do you see anyone else? If not, you can take us forward.
I am not seeing anyone else. If If you're not real thrilled with talking to a group of 50 people on Zoom and highlighting yourself, you can also introduce yourself in the chat. If you do that, please include your contact information and affiliation. If you work for an organization or if you're a community advocate, let us know where you live. We'd love to know where folks are at when they join these meetings. So I am not seeing anyone else. So let's move on to the first item in today's agenda. And I have set aside a little bit of extra time this morning so we can talk about what's happening on the streets this week. Again, as Rosemary mentioned, we have had some sweeps taking place this week. The site at 2nd and Tacoma Avenue, the cleanup there started on Tuesday. And I stopped by that briefly and was able to meet Caleb in the flesh. That was good. As well as to see Ed and Richard and a number of other folks out there, just being moral support for people as they were getting moved to wherever they're going next. Also, the city of Tacoma, those who are on the mailing list will have seen the notification that the city has posted. They will do a cleanup or a sweep of South J Street between South 7th and South 13th. And that will take place on March 22nd or begin on March 22nd. So we can talk about those items, and we can just talk about what people are seeing on the streets this week as spring starts to arrive, as we do the time change this weekend, and hopefully we put the cold temperatures in our rearview mirror. So does anybody have anything to share with what they have witnessed, encountered on the streets this week? Feel free to raise your hand or use the raise hand function and I'll call on you. Monique.
Sorry, I couldn't see my mute button because it was over on the other screen. So guess what I saw? The permanent fence is up at 82nd and Pacific. So we should be able to access the site Monday, and we'll get started with all our setup. And then we will have a volunteer day where we can get more help to set up. But if you would like to volunteer, go to fobhope.org, volunteer, and you can volunteer to help at the encampment. We will give you more information and details once you have volunteered. Thank you so much.
Monique, do you want to, for one, put that in the chat? And then
Sure.
It'd be great if you want to recruit volunteers using the mailing list as well. That could be a good resource.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else with observations or things that they've recognized as a new need on the streets this week? Janet.
Hi, good morning. I was with you for a few minutes on Tuesday on the sweep, and I had leftover donuts. So I went over to 7th, I think 7th and Tacoma Avenue, and then I was on L Street. And I've been out enough, not as much as you all have been out, but I've been out enough that people remembered me going out. They asked where Richard was. It just felt, you know, okay, now I kind of know these people. And I was thinking about if we really had, 15 different encampments across the county and had our own local encampments. And I think this happened a little bit on 6th and Orchard, that neighbors would start stopping by the encampment, maybe taking something. And it just, the fear goes away a little bit, not that there aren't some dangerous situations, but I was by myself and I felt fine. So I guess that was sort of a little bit positive for me to think about what this could be, and which some are suggesting, about spreading these out. So that's all I have to say.
Thank
That's
you,
real.
Janet.
It's Richard. That's real nice how you say that, Janet. Yeah, that's kind of what happens. This week I was on a webinar with, and I don't know how to put it on the post right now, but it was a webinar on the litigation around the country of sweeps, and fascinating to hear how things have gone on, not just on the West Coast, but in Florida, in Texas, and around the country, and some of the language people are using and the things they're discussing about not just the sweeps themselves and their legality, but the issues that are involved, taking of people's possessions. That these, it may look like trash, but it's the only possessions they have. But anyway, I wish, Rob, I sent that to you. I don't know how to put it up, but there's a lot of things going on around the country with other communities and how they're responding to sweeps, and it's a very interesting thing to see. It's not just Tacoma, but it's all around the country.
Yeah, thank you for that, Richard. And I saw a lot of nodding heads. There were a number of folks who were on that call as well. I know Sally Perkins actually shared both, well, a really interesting document. I don't know if you can drop that in the chat, Sally, that has a lot of links and resources related to that webinar, including a way to watch it after the fact. So I was busy and was not able to attend yesterday, so I look forward to watching that later today. So thank you for that. Paula, I see your hand up.
Morning, everyone. One of the things that we've noticed this week, and it's just something I want to put out there so that everybody knows that this works, is that we are over capacity with the 4 sites that we have for safe parking right now. And we've now have started a wait list. I think we have about 5 or 6 vehicles on that wait list. So I'm just letting you all know that we're starting to see, as the word gets out, we're starting to see more and more people utilize that who are in their vehicles. So just a heads up on that. I'll keep you posted on the rest.
Great, thank you, Paula. It sounds like it's time to expand safe parking. All right, Ed, your hand's up as well.
Well, I was there Tuesday morning, and one of the things that came through to me when one man's tent and the tarp that he had over it was taken away from him by the workers at the direction of the HEAL team, was this is this man's home. And every time he is forced to move, he or she has to rebuild their home. But they do that with as much energy and probably love as we do our own homes. Those that own or are able to rent homes. And the other thing that came through from the litigation program that Richard talked about, it's a constitutional right for the homeless to have their stuff. This isn't a nice thing to do. This is not something that, if an organization wants to help. This is a constitutional right. And we have case law to back it up. So when we have someone with quite a bit of stuff, and the city says, oh, well, we can store that for you. And sorry, Caleb, but That's their constitutional right. And when the city says that, you better be able to come through with it, because there is case law to back it up. And that to me is really important, and may become a stumbling block, or may be the stumbling block for the camping ban. My father always wanted me to go to law school because he was a lawyer and I'm a junior, and there are times that I wish I had.
Thank you, Ed. Patricia.
I was just thinking of the acquisition of items on the street is trauma-based. It creates like a shelter or shell around it, and only the individual can undo that so that there's not more trauma. And it also, if that's done for them, then it leads to resistance and to getting into different housing mannerisms, because you just destroyed their house. Why would they trust you to get into another house? So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you for that perspective, Patricia. Gay, your hand's up.
Unfortunately, something that I see on a regular basis, especially from being on the other side of it, is a complete disconnect of understanding that that is a home. Those possessions are the only thing they have, and that they are honestly some of the only things that keep them stable mentally, physically, and otherwise, and out of despair. The total disconnect from these are actual people with actual emotions, and that we talk about them in a third party as if they're not quite a part of the same world that we are. And that gap needs to be bridged. These are people. They have a life story. They are real individuals. And the people that are sweeping, no offense, if anybody's on the call from those sweeps, aren't putting those two things together and putting themselves in those people's shoes and going, how would I feel if the last 5 things I had were quote unquote stored for me? I know that I have lost all of my possessions 4 or 5 times in my life, and it's been devastating. Just losing the few things that are my safety is destructive, and it is a horrible mental hit when you're not seen as a relevant individual that has possessions and should possess them. Also, Paula, one other question. How many people are on that waiting list?
I believe the last count I had was 5 or 6.
All right, thank you.
I don't have video. This is Richard again. Whoever just spoke, that for me is the thing when I go out on the encampments is that, and I didn't know this a year ago, but when I go talk to, every person is their own story. You cannot look at an encampment, or people do look at encampments and see a group of people, but the magic, the incredible thing is when you talk to the people in the encampment, every person has a story. It's not a group. You can't do it as a cluster or talk about it as a, you know, I mean, it's everyone has a story, and that is what is so interesting and so incredibly intense when I go to the encampments. Every person has a different story, and that's what I wish people could understand. If folks have not gone out to encampments, they need to go, because that is what you learn on the street, is that everybody has a different story out there. And that's, you know, I help them out, but they give me their stories, and they give me their trust and let me in a little bit. And that's what's so amazing when I go out every day. So anyway, whoever was just speaking, yeah, that's so right on. Thank you.
The other part of that, honestly, is getting our people that are doing these sweeps to understand that you can sweep as much as you want, but if there is nowhere for them to go, all you're doing is shifting an issue instead of fixing an issue. You're not removing it, you're making it worse. Without a system in place to put these people in a safe environment, you're just going to be doing it again. And it's a waste of tax dollars, it's a waste of money, it's a waste of time, and you're only causing more damage.
Yes, for sure. And that was very apparent in the situation on Tuesday at 2nd and Tacoma Avenue, where the people who were being moved there just 2 months before had been moved from a block up the street by Wright Park. So it's frustrating on many levels, just as an observer, let alone if you're living through it. Teresa, your hand's up.
So in our little neighborhood, we had some new people. I don't know if they came from the most recent sweep or not. What I know is that when there are sweeps, we tend to get new people. It takes a few days to get to know people, and I don't interrogate people when they show up, like, where are you from? But eventually, some of them stay. What I do notice is there are a lot more fires. It's just like the whole sidewalk's on fire sometimes. And this is one of those things where it's really important. I mean, if we're talking about the fact that we're all humans together and that we have a, you know, it's absolutely necessary that people have a right to shelter. This is a group where no one needs to preach that to this choir. But what sometimes gets lost is that the people who live in these neighborhoods, if we don't also treat them like humans who maybe have some valid concerns, we're never going to get them on board. And I love that Jay spoke up about what that feels like to lose your possessions. I think if more people who are housed would know people who could speak to that, it would be helpful. And the road to that is not to make it into an us-them. This neighborhood does what was being described earlier. The people who are living on this block, we know each other, whether we have a house or a tent or living in a car, we know each other. When there's a emergency vehicle that shows up, we don't know which neighbor it's going to, but as neighbors usually do, we're concerned. We go out, we try to find out what's going on and help each other. So it's not 100%. I can tell you that there are some really bad days, especially when someone new comes who does not kind of get the culture of the street here. It can be, and sometimes it can last for a while, but it does happen. What I really want to say is, and I'm sorry I'm taking so long, but I'm getting to this point. Someone asked me earlier this week, what could the city do to make the sites they have to offer, the shelter they have to offer more attractive, more appealing? And it was like, it's not a marketing problem. It's just not a marketing problem. If you have a mat and a bin, you can say, I have shelter to offer people. People have been offered shelter, and that's what we keep hearing. They were offered it and they refused it. It's a mat and a bin. So if you keep offering something that is not going to work for the majority of people who are out here, you're not really offering any kind of meaningful solution. They're not turning down anything meaningful. So we're putting the people who are doing this work in a terrible bind as a community by not insisting that we do have alternatives. We don't have trouble filling up the hotel rooms, right? We don't have trouble filling up the tiny houses. We don't have trouble filling up any of the options that are not a mat and a bin. So let's stop demonizing the city workers who are doing what they are paid to do and start not demonizing, but start really working on the fact that we need alternative shelters. We need some safe campsites so that people can have fires in safe ways and neighbors can get involved in the way we're talking about. Amen. I know I was preaching to the choir too, but it bothers me.
Appreciate that, Teresa. You every now and then preaching to the choir with passion. I think that's a good thing. So any last comments before we wrap up this portion of today's meeting? Any particular pointed changes or needs? I was hoping you would speak, Tricia.
I don't know if that's sarcasm or not, but
no, it's
you
not.
know, Jessica and I, we are boots on the ground, and we have begged and pleaded and begged and pleaded with the people in positions of power to come out and lace their boots up with us. We invited Jay Inslee to come out and lace his boots up with us, and we have been ghosted every time. We have gotten some Pierce County Council members to come out with us, and we do get a positive response. A lot of our successes that we've had have been because these people have come out and they have seen what the reality is and the actuality of this is. We had David Rose from Channel 13 News out with us a few weeks ago. And he did a piece on the news about the fentanyl crisis, but he was so interested in the outreach, and he said, you know, we see this in Seattle where he works. And he said, what I'm seeing today is so different. And he has just begged that he can come talk to us more. And, you know, we're not going to take him into encampments to talk about homelessness. We can have that conversation with him elsewhere. But I have a saying, and he used it on the news even, but we tell people, talk to the boots, not the suits. We need people to stop talking to the people sitting behind desks and signing off on bills and signing off on papers, and stop spending money on worthless things that don't work. It doesn't work. You know, you are right. Whoever said that it is puts us in a bind, you're right, it does. It puts the homeless outreach workers in a bind. One of the biggest challenges we see, especially this time of year, is on your day off, on my day off, I don't want to have to leave my house at 7 in the morning. I don't want to have to go find some place to be for 10 hours during the day. Hope that somebody doesn't steal my stuff, you know, whatever that is. So yeah, there needs to be some alternatives. But before these people stop making plans and stop planning things, they need to lace their boots up and they need to get the hell out here with us. And that's really what it boils down to. So. And
Thank
Rob,
you.
I do want to shout out to your team really quick. We have a client that we've worked with for the last year, very, very, very ill. She showed up here from Colorado in a car with a cat to date Russell Wilson because he told her to. And we've had her detained multiple times. There's been a lot of safety concerns, and Autumn from your ENT reached out to us and said, hey, I heard this is one of yours. And between Autumn and our team and the police department and Port of Seattle Police, we were able to get this gal with no ID onto an airplane last week with her family. Her family flew here and she went home and she is safe with family. And I have to tell you, Rob, she's been detained many times, and it was Autumn at your facility that called and said, hey, I'm not going to bed until this is done. And we left at 3 in the morning and we went and we did this. And Rob, we will be bringing cupcakes to Autumn. So hands down to your people, like amazing.
Awesome. Love hearing those stories. All right, Sally, you want to close out this section?
Yes, just real quick. I live in the middle of the hilltop, and what has happened with these 2 latest sweeps is that there are a lot of people just out walking around because they don't know where they're going to go next. I was driving down J Street yesterday about 10:30 in the morning. There was a woman sleeping on the sidewalk. So what the sweeps have done is create a whole new level of misery, and it's really visible if you come and look at it. So kudos to Trish for emphasizing the importance of the desk people getting out to the boots people. Absolutely essential. Thank you.
Yep. And Jeffrey, I see your hand up too.
Yeah, thank you. One of the things I have noticed is on Center Street under the Yakima Bridge is starting to grow a little bit, and also the hill on the south side of Thompson Street Bridge. We're just, you know, as we're scattering people, it's really challenging to serve them. It is just so challenging. I am so happy that the city has put together this one site up on 82nd and Pacific. It's really slow coming on, really slow, but it's the right idea and it's the right concept, and we need more of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And if others have tidbits that they would like to share in the chat, please do so. Again, a reminder, we use the chat as an ongoing resource. So whether it's a need and you want to post it in the chat or just a comment, that's all of value to us going forward. So let's move to our community spotlight section of the meeting, and we have two 5-minute presentations. Why don't we get started with Lori? Are you ready to go for us, Lori?
Hi, sorry. I didn't realize that I was on the agenda. Are we talking about me?
Yeah, we were going to have you talk about the housing clinics, the Housing Justice
Oh,
Project.
Of
Yeah.
course, I would love to talk about those. Okay. I have too many things going on. I'm sure that that's true for everybody who's here. It's kind of ridiculous. We've been partnering with the Pierce County Library System. We are so grateful to them for being able to go out. All of February, we went out with Tacoma Pro Bono, our Housing Justice Project. Plus, we had before been going out just with Valerie and having a great time helping people. But for the last month or so, we've been going out with the providers who are actually doing the on the ground, giving out rental assistance. So that's been really fun for me. We've had great time with people from KWA, Associated Ministries. It's been a different kind of experience, but the libraries told us in February, just in the last couple of weeks of February, we helped 137 people. I've been going to these clinics, don't even have time to get set up. It's just like, people are there, they're waiting, they're all ready for you. And frankly, that's because we're receiving a lot of people who are getting 14-day notices. And as I think everybody probably knows, the landlords who want to evict people for non-payment of rent need to first give people a payment plan, a notice about the eviction resolution program, kind of get things started to work things out, because that's mandatory. You can't evict someone until you do that. But they're also allowed now, since the moratorium ended and the bridge ended, to also at the same time serve a 14-day notice to pay or vacate. And so all that stuff is coming together, and that's legal, it's okay. But what's happening is people don't know what it is. None of it is very clear. They just see the 14-day pay or vacate and they think, oh, I've got 2 weeks to leave. And they do. So that's a big part of what we're doing right now, is just trying to tell people, no, that's not what that means. What it means is that your landlord, for whatever reason, has decided that this period of time when you owe money and they've been waiting to get rental assistance and all the stuff that's going on is too much, and they want to start the process. All they're doing is starting the process. So an enormous amount of what we're doing when we go out is just talking to people and walking them through the eviction resolution program. None of this is happening like we would all love it to in a perfect world. The eviction resolution pilot program is overloaded. People contact the Center for Dialogue and Resolution. It takes a long time for them to get in. That's not because anybody's doing a bad job or is inefficient or that we don't know what we're doing. It's just the number of people. The number of people is enormous. We are really basically trying to prevent eviction. We're trying to keep people off the streets. So that's probably the biggest thing that's going on now. There's also a lot of other smaller landlord tenant stuff that we are able to help with. And I wanted to call your attention to not only these pop-up clinics, and I can give you the dates. I'll put them in the chat. I just got them this morning from the libraries. We're slowing down a little bit. Don't know whether rental assistance is going to be coming out with us yet, but the Housing Justice Project will be out there. So there's like 4 different dates now we have for March and April. But a couple of other things that are going on. We are now working with the city of Lakewood to provide specific eviction prevention resources for people who live in Lakewood. And that's a big area. I mean, you may think you live in Telecom, you may think you live in Stellicum, but a lot of it is Lakewood. So, and a huge number of people who may be facing eviction and having other problems with landlords. So every Thursday, 9 to noon, Lakewood City Hall. We take appointments and we take walk-ins. So we've got that time period when anybody who has a landlord tenant issue can come in. And it's not just eviction. We're looking for anything from habitability to I've got a LFO on my record to all kinds of things of that type. So is a great resource. We're also out at Key Peninsula Community Center, which is way down there by home, a long ways away. We go there once a month on the second Tuesday from 10 to 12. So if people out there can get to that community center, we can talk to you also. And that's been great so far. We really appreciate that partnership. Hoping to branch out to Tacoma libraries. But the other thing I really want everybody to know is that we're now able to help people with all kinds of issues. So it's an eviction prevention package, and it can be, like I said, anything from how do I move out? Can my landlord give me a 4-day notice? No, they can't. But landlords are trying all kinds of creative ways now because we have just cause. We have those 16 causes, that one of which has to be there in order to do eviction. They're trying all kinds of different ways to get people to move, even though the underlying issue may just be non-payment of rent. So we're able to deal with all those gray areas, different kinds of things that we were not before. So wanted to alert you about that. Other than that, we are just really ramping up what we're doing for eviction prevention. And I will probably do a separate presentation later on about what we're doing with legal financial obligations. We had one clinic a week ago with our Washington Women Lawyers group here from Pierce County. Just in seeing 3 or 4 clients, they had waived $25,000 worth of LFOs, get it off people's records, give them a chance to get out from under that debt that's sitting there. That really does, it's one of the factors that keeps people out of housing. So that's also part of that eviction prevention intervention that we're doing. Anybody have any questions?
You sleep.
Yeah, I sleep great. especially now that I get a chance to be one of those boots on the ground people that, is actually talking to people. And it's sometimes tough, often tough, but it's also feels really good to be giving people information that really makes a difference to them. So yeah, I do sleep.
Good.
And I also multitask. So sorry for being slow on the uptake.
No, that's great. And thank you for all that you do and what Tacoma Pro Bono is doing. I get the sense when you start connecting the dots. I know Garrett said earlier this week in another meeting that we had over 200 new individuals interact with the Homeless Management Information System, HIMIS. And right. You start connecting the dots, it makes me wonder how many of those folks are folks who are going through an eviction process.
Yeah, more than ever now. Yeah. Jessica?
Yeah, Jessica.
Sorry, I didn't prepare. Okay. I just wanted to add to that. Trish and I are definitely seeing an increase in people that are being evicted for numerous reasons, but these are people that we're not used to working with, never been homeless, older, disabled, everybody that landlords want to get rid of, basically. A lot of changing of hands, my apartment owner sold because retail, because houses are worth so much, apartments are worth more. So we are seeing an influx of that. I'm still a little bit in like the beginning shock stage. I'm not really exactly sure what we're going to be able to do for people that, they make Social Security, never been homeless, so they're not more resilient in that way. I'm a little bit concerned. I'm a lot a bit concerned about it. I'm glad to hear that there's something available though.
Yeah, I never go to one of our pop-up sessions without talking to someone who is just literally being either forced out because they're remodeling the apartments and just raising the rents like crazy. I'm sorry we didn't get any more protections about that in the legislature this time, but yeah, it's very, very difficult.
Yep.
Tori, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah.
Hi. So with eviction prevention, I'm working with the city of Puyallup as a housing case manager. There is a mobile home estates. It's called Meridian Mobile Home Estates. And a developer has bought the property and they are going to build apartments on it. And the residents have been given notice actually before COVID, but then there was the moratorium. Is that what you call it? When they can't evict, they were unable to evict but that is passed. And they've been given the date of October 1st to be out. And my partner and I, her name's Maggie Garcia, our task is to give the residents resources. And I see, as a reminder, in a little bit, we're gonna get an update on eviction. Okay, I will talk later then. Sorry
No,
about that.
it's good. You can go ahead and continue. I just wanted to let other folks know that.
Oh,
since we're
okay,
talking about
okay.
eviction
I can wait,
prevention-
I can wait.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I apologize for that. So I will be brief. So we're having problems with residents wanting to work with us. They're very skeptical. They think we're working for the property owners, and we are getting doors shut in our face, literally. And we're trying to find resources for them. 80% are Spanish speakers. And so I guess when we talk more about eviction prevention, I can get some more assistance or resources from you all. So with that, I'm going to be quiet.
Tori, I just want to throw something out there, something that we see. These people are all living inside, and we have this entire group, and they hear how much work everyone's doing and how much work the cities are doing to prevent homelessness, but they're seeing how much homelessness there is, and they're seeing all these people that are living outside and the things that are happening. And so for them to look at us or you guys, when you approach them, they're probably like, yeah, right. So it just may take longer with engagement with them. It just may take longer of talking about, who they are and less about what needs to happen immediately. And that's often something that the Center for Dispute Resolution, where they do some of the creative conversations and stuff, they have some great resources through some of those trainings that could potentially help you kind of bridge that gap. I would be the same way. If somebody showed up at my house and said, hey, I'm here to help you, not be homeless, I'd be like, yeah, right.
Yeah. All right, so thank you for that update, Lori. And like I said, we will talk a little bit more tangentially on this topic around the rental assistance that's available in the county. So, but that will be coming up in a few moments. We do have another community.
Can I say
ahead,
one
Lori.
more thing? The thing I wanted to mention is that we've had one little change in our Right to Counsel program, which provides a free attorney for anyone who's facing an eviction hearing who's low income. Previously, we couldn't help unless someone actually had the summons and complaint filed in court and a hearing set. Now we can help someone if they receive that actual summons and complaint for eviction in the, however that gets to you, contact us right away, because we like to be able to get ahead of stuff before we're actually standing there in court. And that's a little bit of a change. So summons and complaint, fill out our online intake form. Thanks.
Thank you, Lori. So our next community spotlight is, we've asked Mary Herman from Associated Ministries to join us, and I see you on screen, to talk about the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. So Mary, you can take it away.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. I'll be quick. I just wanted to take a moment. Well, Teresa invited me to share about the program, but yeah, I'm the community programs manager at Associated Ministries, and one of the programs I run is the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, which provides free income tax preparation to moderate and low income taxpayers in Pierce County. I'm going to put a link in the chat to our webpage where you can find our flyer and more information. We have several tax sites open right now at various days of the week. So some of them are going to be closing on April 9th. Some of them are going to be open till the 18th, which is the tax deadline this year. So if you yourself or any of your clients need their taxes done, I mean, we really do want to try and prioritize people experiencing homelessness, especially if they're working. I can't imagine how incredibly challenging it is to try and file your taxes while experiencing homelessness. So we are, the Vallejo Vocation had a private site for their clients only, but they didn't have a ton of volume. So we are going to be opening that site up to the public, and we would really still like to prioritize people experiencing homelessness at that site. So that site is open on Mondays from 3:30 to 7:30. We are going to make it appointment only, which I know is a little bit of a barrier for people experiencing homelessness, but just given the lack of volunteer staffing at that site, we want to make sure we can have some control over the volume. There is one site, the Moore Branch Library, Tacoma Public Library on 56th. That is a non-appointment site. So if making an appointment is too much of a barrier for anyone, they can show up at the Moore Library on Fridays. The site is open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Though I will say people line up around the block, before 10 a.m. to get in. So I would recommend someone showing up there maybe at 9 a.m. on a Friday if they're needing to get their taxes done without an appointment. And I'm just looking at the chat real quick to see if there are any questions. But yeah, I'll pause there. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me.
Any questions for Mary? Teresa.
So what are the requirements to receive assistance? Do you have income requirements, or I'm thinking about people who are here, who are part of the outreach teams or whatever, who might want help with their taxes.
Yeah, generally our income limit requirement is you have to make under $57,000 a year. However, if you have a family of 8, for example, and you have a, single income of of 80,000, let's say, we would still work with you. The IRS weirdly just puts 57,000 as a flat limitation. They don't really adjust it based on household size, but at each site, we recognize what low income looks like, depending on your household size. So, yeah, and we do technically, our scope is Pierce County. There's a King County program for people living in King County. It's actually a little bit better than our program. They've got more resources, more things going on. But if someone came down from King County or up from Thurston County and needed their taxes done, we wouldn't turn them away just because of their address. It's pretty loose qualifications.
Great. And I'm seeing a comment from Sheila that Goodwill is also offering tax preparation help.
Yeah, they're a part of our program. So the flyer on our webpage there has all the sites listed. So Goodwill is one of those sites, and they are doing appointments for in-person tax prep, or you can get your taxes done virtually by the Goodwill site. And that's another thing. There's multiple ways that people can access the service. We're trying to divert people with access to computers and technology to virtual services, just because that's where our greatest capacity is. Since a lot of volunteers this year, it's a volunteer run program, so a lot of volunteers want to only volunteer virtually. So we have slightly less capacity at our in-person sites. So, we want to really make sure those spots are available for people who, have no way of accessing virtual services.
Great. Anyone else with a question for Mary? All right, not seeing any at the moment. Thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, so the next item on our agenda, and of course, we're a little over time, shocker, but we wanted to have a conversation, our regular breakout discussions and networking session, to talk about something that came up during This Week on the Streets section earlier this morning, and that is the issue of storage. So the inability to store things is often a barrier for people to move into different types of shelter. So I would like to have us break up into small groups to have a conversation with each other, and please have someone take notes to share in the chat afterward regarding what storage options need to exist to make sheltering possible for more people. When we come back, I'm going to share a highlight document that Timothy put together from last week's breakout discussion. So we can look back at what we talked about last week, but let's go now. I'm going to send us into rooms of roughly 5 or 6 people.
Hey, Rob, I don't know if you saw, Jessica and I have an outreach scheduled with Tacoma Rescue Mission, so we got to jump out. So please don't put us in a room, but I put our contact information in there.
Okay.
Okay,
Sounds
thank
great.
you.
Yep. So I'm going to send folks off to the rooms, and we will go in a breakout conversation until about 5 after 10, and I'll call everybody back. All right. Again, please somebody take notes, bring them back to the chat, and we will see you in a few minutes. Welcome back, everybody, from the conversations about storage. Again, I do hope that people will place their notes in the chat so that we can compile that information. And let me see here. I was going to pull up a document that Timothy shared with me. And you'd think I would be prepared for this. Let's see. So let me see here. I might drop this in the chat, but very briefly, I'm going to share my screen so we can look at the conversation that the document that Timothy compiled from last week's conversation. And can folks see that on the screen right now? I guess I got a black bar across it. So as a reminder, last week we talked about what shelter options are needed in Pierce County. And Timothy, thank you for taking this on as something that you'll do for us. He pulled together a majority of the discussion groups drilled into the need for additional low-barrier shelter and transitional housing options, and that we can raise the bar for what this means. There was a lot of conversation about storage facilities, which is what prompted today's question, and then a number of other needs that were discussed. So I will drop this into the chat so folks can peruse it after the meeting. But I do want to thank Timothy for compiling that. And we will do the same thing with this week's meeting topic as well, so that we can make sure that we put the information to use rather than just have these conversations in the way they go into the ether. So thank you, Timothy. Any thoughts you'd like to share, Timothy?
No, not particularly. I don't want to take up any time, but I'm just happy to do this little job, my idea of a good time. So yeah.
Good. Well, thank you again. And let me see if I can drop this in the chat. All right. So let's move on to our government updates, and we will get started with the city of Tacoma. Caleb, do you have anything to share with us today?
I do not have anything to share that we haven't already been discussing. And as a reminder, day 10 into my job. So I've been listening to a lot of you, and I'm glad I've been able to meet a lot of you in person or in other meetings and such. So again, it's an honor to be a part of this. I thank you all.
Thank you, and thank you for listening. I know we can, it's probably a fire hose of information coming at you, and a lot of us making a lot of demands and suggestions, and hopefully doing so politely, but trying to move the ball forward. Yeah, flamethrower of information. Yeah, I think that's good, Karen. Let's shift over to Jeff Rogers with updates from Pierce County Human Services.
Yes, good morning. Yesterday we released our notice of funding for the Housing Essential Need Program. Many people know it as the HEN program. It's a program that provides rental assistance to folks who are temporarily disabled, and eligibility is determined by the State Department of Social and Health Services. The new funding will start July 1st. We do have an existing program that operates this program, but every 4 or 5 years we open up the competitions for these large scale dollars to reconsider who receives the funding. For the period of July 1 through June 30th of 2023, we have just over $4.3 million available for that program. Applications will be due back March 31st, and contract will start July 1st. Only update I have for today.
Great. Thanks for being here, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff? It's an opportunity to grow the county. Okay. Not that you need grilled. So let's shift over to Valerie. Valerie, welcome back, and welcome back to the portal.
Yes, the portal is open. I am stressed beyond belief and so relieved at the same time, right? Like, it's such a weird feeling to be like, oh no. So the portal is open. New applications are being accepted. I put the link into the website. All of the same eligibility requirements have remained because we are still seeing such an influx of folks who are impacted by COVID to this day. So everything is the same. There is a list of documents that tenants and landlords have to have in order to apply. We are still not collecting photo ID, social security cards, none of that stuff. So if you hear that in the community, it is a rumor, dispel it. We aren't doing it. We are collecting only what Treasury absolutely requires that we have, and to try to prevent as much fraud as possible. So that is where we're at. The portal is open, so all good news. We have been reached out about the site in Puyallup, so I've connected them with some folks. Unfortunately, our program isn't the right fit for that because those folks are being moved for reasons other than COVID-19. And so that's not the best fit, but they should still know about our program just in case once they do get moved, if we still have funding available, they'll be able to apply for us. Or if they are currently impacted by COVID, then they would be eligible. So a little bit of difference there, but we have been in touch. I'm still problem solving some other potential opportunities for them. So I'll be in touch, folks, if I can come up with anything, because that's just how my brain works. We are still doing up to 18 months rent and utilities. Utilities is still the water, sewer, garbage, electric, fuel, oil, and internet. If your folks have already applied, all they have to do is reset their password. It'll put them right into the new portal. If they haven't been served yet, they'll be able to update their documents, connect their landlords. Just really, really cool. If you're a landlord, you'll be able to reset your password and see all of your tenants, payments that have been made, all of the really nice updates that you have to normally get from myself and V. Now you can get on the portal. So we're hoping we'll get less than 400 emails per day here very soon. Hopeful. Other than that, we've already spent $103 million since March of last year. That's rent and utilities paid to landlords and to utility companies. So great news. And we did put in a request for additional dollars from Treasury. We're just waiting to hear about that. So huge shout out to our 9 amazing nonprofits. They have just gone above and beyond. It's just some of their success stories and some of the extra things they've had to do to really support people. So for example, today, a landlord wrote me and was very worried about the mental health of one of their tenants. He threatened if he wasn't able to stay there, he would rather kill himself. And so she immediately contacted everyone she could imagine, plus myself, which then we connected them with a mental health professional. One of our providers is on the phone with them as we speak, getting their application submitted. So just a very roundabout way of saying, like, full service stop, right? And so that landlord did what every landlord should do. And I can't give their name, but public shout out to that person, because, you know, that takes a lot. It takes a lot to spend your extra hours in the evening to support someone. So, but yeah, so we're continuing to work through, and we'll be here until there's no more need for us.
There will always be need. Thanks, Valerie. And I saw Jenny is on the call. Jenny, any updates from the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department?
Good morning, everyone. I missed you all last week. Great to be back. I'm going to share some different updates this morning. I'll share some normal updates and then some different types of things. So as you all have seen and heard, you know, we're seeing dropping cases of COVID, fewer outbreaks, lower hospitalizations, which is all fantastic news. We're seeing plateaus in our vaccination rates, which is kind of a bummer. At the same time, the governor, as of tomorrow, is lifting the indoor mask mandate, as I'm sure you all have heard. I want to encourage folks to continue to wear masks. If you are in an area where you feel it is a good decision for yourself, you are always welcome to continue to wear a mask. I will be continuing to wear a mask indoors for a little while longer. But how this is relevant to the populations that you serve, or maybe relevant to the populations that you serve, is that the governor has made exceptions for certain groups like correctional facilities and others that need to continue to require masking, but that does not include homeless services. So shelters are not required to wear masks, though I've been told by my Washington State Department of Health colleagues that Washington State DOH strongly recommends continuing to wear masks, and that is in alignment with what the CDC guidance says. Individual facilities can decide what works best for them in terms of requiring. So folks should be empowered to require masking, but I realize that that puts folks in a tricky position. So if that's something you want to do, I support you. Reach out to me if you need help. But I realize this is, it's tough to navigate when there's a requirement. It's really clear, for better, for worse. But when something is a recommendation or looser, or you're given sort of the ability to make that decision, and you're faced with what one shelter manager told me, faced with the risk of getting in an argument or altercation with someone, or just it can put people in a tricky position. So I'm here to support you if you need that. There's an opioid task force summit that is on March 17th that I can put the link in the chat. It's hosted by the Pierce County Opioid Task Force, which is a joint effort between our department, Pierce County, and the city. So many of you probably know about that, but I will share the link for registering for that. And then the other thing I want to talk about is syphilis. Syphilis is on the rise. We've seen a concerning rise in congenital syphilis cases in Pierce County from 2020 to 2021. And these cases are all among women aged 20 to 35, most of whom are unhoused or unstably housed, or are using drugs. Most entered care after their first trimester of pregnancy, which is very concerning. Some did not enter care until they were about to deliver. So this can have some really disastrous effects long-term. Syphilis is very easily treated, but if it's left untreated, can have really, really negative effects on women and babies. So we got additional funds from Washington, from the state, to work on implementing some new STD programs, some, boosting our community engagement, working on hiring community health workers to focus in this area, building a coalition to sort of boost our engagement and hopefully prevent and get women, get people who are pregnant into get access to and into treatment sooner. But I just share this with the group. I'll be sharing it with others as well, in hopes that you'll sort of raise awareness where it's appropriate, raise awareness among your clients about this increased risk among people who are pregnant, may become pregnant, are unstably housed, or who are using drugs, and encourage folks to get into prenatal care, because as I said, it's very easily treated. If you want to learn more about this, you can always reach out to me. I'll also drop the information for Teresa Cooper, who's in our STD group, and then our STD clinic. So if folks have questions, you can follow up. Any questions right now for me?
Trisha.
Did you want me to talk about the?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Verna. Verna's going to talk about, I'm like, I'm going to pass the mic to Verna, and then I completely forgot. Yeah, I'd love for Verna to share what the MRC is doing around this as part of this work. Thanks, Verna.
I'm Verna Lilly. I'm the liaison officer for Pierce County Medical Reserve Corps. Jan Runbeck and I are working on a pilot project in the encampments. We're working in cooperation with the health department, and are among the many public health focuses that are needed at the encampments. We're targeting women that may be pregnant and syphilis as our particular areas of concern. So we were at the encampment. We've been twice to encampments. The last time we were there was this last Wednesday, and we did meet a young woman who said she thought she might be pregnant. We called for a ride for her to the community health care up there on Hilltop. And she stepped into a tent, said she wanted to visit with her friend. And then when the ride came, she wouldn't come. So we'll go back and try to catch her again, the next time we're there. So we're there handing out condoms and flyers and talking to people about STDs and syphilis being on the rise, and the need for women of childbearing age to be aware of this concern and see what we can do. So our pilot project will go through partway through April. We'll do an after action report and work again in cooperation with the health department for next steps after that.
Thank you, Verna. And now I see Patricia's hand up.
I have a weird comment and question. Is there any other sort of birth control than condoms? Because obviously with certain pathologies, this is not preventing pregnancies. I have one individual that I believe is on drugs. She won't stay clothed. I've brought her to places and she's released almost immediately. She just had her sixth child in about 4 years. And the only way I can think about that is that these children are being born premature, which is just shocking. And she won't keep clothes on. And I bring her to places and she's released almost sometimes the same day. Yet, like, they're children that have been born, right, in these circumstances. And I just wondered if there's other ways, because there's to work towards than condoms, like the shot, what's that one that goes in the arm for so long I understand like the STD, but I'm also concerned with the rise of these babies and the conditions in which they're born into that create a cycle of what we're trying to mitigate now. So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Patricia. And I'm not sure if either Jenny or anybody has a direct response to respond to that right now, but you could also reach out to Patricia through the chat as well. Jenny?
Yeah, no, I'm not in the STD world, so I don't have a specific answer to that, but happy to make those connections. So yeah, absolutely. I'll reach out and chat. I don't know if Verna has anything to add. But.
Okay. All right. So the last government update on our list would be whether we have anything from the Tacoma Pierce County Department of Emergency Management. I know we had somebody on the call earlier, but I don't know if we had any specific updates today. All right, not seeing anybody coming forward with that right now. Let's move on to the next item on our agenda, and that would be me. So the next item we're going to talk about is advocacy updates. You probably heard me refer to the fact that the state legislative session wrapped up yesterday, earlier in today's meeting. There is a pretty good summary of the impacts of what was passed both in the budget and in legislation in the email that I forwarded to the mailing list earlier this morning from the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance. The Alliance is actually meeting right now to do sort of a celebratory overview of what was passed by the state legislature. There were good things and there were a number of things that were disappointments during this session, but it was a short session. It was a crazy sprint from the first day till yesterday, and they didn't wrap up until very late last night. So I would urge you to go to that email for that summary of the housing and homelessness related items that were passed. I wanted to give our regular updates about local advocacy opportunities, and this week things are a little bit light. So the city of Tacoma, the Tacoma City Council is actually traveling this next week. They're going to be in Washington, D.C. for lobbying efforts on behalf of the city. So there is no study session next week. There's also not a regular meeting next week. However, I did want to share that I was one of the panelists along with a number of other folks yesterday at the City Council's Community Vitality and Safety Committee. And the conversation of the day was around the potential benefits or impacts of a camping ban and whether the city should consider enacting such a thing. I am going to share a link where, as of this morning, I did not see the replay of yesterday's meeting posted yet. But later today, I presume, if you click on this link, which is the calendar link for the city that shows all the meetings for this current month, you should be able to look at the video, watch the video if you have an interest from yesterday's meeting. Oh, thank you, Sally. Yeah, it wasn't up before we started today's meeting. I'll offer just a quick summary of that conversation. My impressions of it were that the council members who are part of that committee, it was a thoughtful conversation. The panelists, there was one panelist who expressed some support for a camping ban, but there was overall a recognition that the issue of homelessness really is not going to be addressed through a camping ban. So that seemed to be a takeaway that I was hearing from the council members who are on that committee. And again, the council members who are on that committee include the deputy mayor, Catherine Ushka, Keith Blocker, and Kiara Daniels, and Sarah Rumbaugh. So 4 members of the council on that committee conversation yesterday. And as a reminder of the context of this conversation, that committee was tasked late last year with bringing back a recommendation to the full council by the end of March regarding the potential for legislation around a camping ban. It's not clear to me what the committee is going to bring to the full council yet, and I haven't seen or heard when that conversation will happen with the full council, but that'll be something I'll have an eye out for as we move through the rest of this month. Does anybody who attended the meeting have anything to add related to the CVS meeting? Because I did notice some of you were in the audience while I was trying to make sense on camera. hopefully I made some sense. So feel free to share any feedback or other thoughts in the chat. And the last item I wanted to mention related to advocacy is a reminder. So on March 15th at 3 p.m., the Pierce County Council meeting, their agenda includes exactly what Garrett just plopped into the chat. So the consideration of the resolution that would have the county council adopt the Pierce County Comprehensive Plan to End Homelessness. There is actually a page, so I'll drop another link in here, that has information about the latest version of the resolution. Let's see here. There you go. So you'll see Garrett's name all over this. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Garrett, but this will be the opportunity for the county council now to say whether to make public comment further about the plan, vote on the initial funding that will be part of the plan, and essentially give the stamp of approval that the work on the plan that's outlined in the plan will move forward from this point. So there will be an opportunity during that meeting to make public comment. So please, if you have the time and capacity, it's a great opportunity to share that the council, that the coalition and you as an individual support the plan if you do. So Ed, I saw you had your hand up. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, you just answered the question.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm a mind reader.
Yeah.
All right. So that was what I had for our advocacy updates for this week. Any questions on advocacy? All right. Oh, Ed, go ahead.
Whatever happened to 1620? Do we know?
I don't, and I'm going to have to dig around to see.
Because I couldn't
a lot
find
of
it.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of things fell on the final day and didn't get through. And there's going to be a lot of wrap up happening. So I think there's probably more to share next week. Garrett?
I was just going to say, I think it'd be nice to have some, like, I don't know, reports out by the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance or somebody that sort of wraps up a lot of the stuff in the budgets. I got to spend some time with, but it's complicated. So it'd be nice to have someone unpackage that a little bit for us, perhaps even a longer segment. I think we'd all benefit from kind of a little grounding in what actually got through. But
yeah, let me reach out to the Low Income Housing Alliance and see if they have somebody who could attend next week to talk about their takeaways. It's unfortunate that there are celebratory kind of summaries happening right now at the same time as our meeting, but I am suspecting that Cynthia Stewart shifted over there, so she will definitely have some idea, but it'd be good to get either Poe or Michelle to come talk to us. All right, so let's shift on to our next item in the agenda, and that would be any updates from the Safe Sites for All committee. And I know Jan's not here, so you were going to carry that, Ed?
Yeah, good morning. The Safe Sites for All committee really concentrated on the new program of being able to store materials throughout the county and in various locations so that we have a response time of hours rather than days when the weather turns bad. And so we're knee deep in that, and I certainly am waist deep in trying to get the materials list ready to go. We have the safe sites, the Paula's program funded and working, and from what I understand, we need to expand it now. Yeah. So we're looking to add safe parking sites. Anybody have any ideas for churches or locations? Give us a call, let us know. Good. Paula, come talk to us.
Well, just like I said before, we're now experiencing a wait list. I still have not gotten the final contract from the county yet. I know it's in the works. I know it's supposed to be here very, very soon. Until then, we cannot expand the different sites. What we are doing is continuing to support, continuing to interview other churches that are interested in it. And I might have a little glimmer of hope from Puyallup, if you can believe that. We have had a meeting last week at Pastor Paul's, which is at South Hill Baptist. That's the largest safe parking site that we have going right now. We had people from existing safe parking sites, and then also people that were utilizing it, our clients for safe parking. And then I think 3 different churches that are interested in the program, as well as City Council member Ned Whitting, who has been kind of a beacon of light in the whole homeless issue on the City Council for Puyallup. And so he was there talking about trying to figure out how to do this easily for the City Council of Puyallup to accept. And we came up with a game plan. I'm not going to share it now. I'll share it when we actually do it and have some success with that. But what might be occurring is in May, they may be looking at one of the ordinances that would be prohibiting safe parking potentially in the city limits of Puyallup. Our goal is to get enough information to Ned so that he can bring it forth and possibly get some changes to that ordinance. So I'll have more to come and more ways that people can participate in that and help us out to try and really educate the council. So thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Paula. And anyone interested in putting in your 2 cents or $2 billion, whichever comes first, please join us on Mondays at noon for the Safe Sites committee meeting.
Thank you, Ed. And yeah, the link to that meeting and all the other committee meetings of the coalition are on the pchomeless.org website. So the front page of the site, if you need another meeting in your day, we probably have one. So please join us. All right. So speaking of coalition committees, do we have any coalition committee updates to share today? Yeah, Rosemary.
I would just say we don't have updates for content, but we have 2 meetings next week. The governance work group will meet on Tuesday at 12 noon, I believe. We had to change the meeting. And then the Race and Equity Committee will meet on Thursday at 3. And those will be on the coalition site as soon as we get the Zoom links sent to Rob. So if you're interested in thinking about the mission and values and role of the coalition, join the governance committee on Tuesday, or expanding our ability to be inclusive, join us at the Race and Equity Committee on Thursday.
Thank you, Rosemary. And looking at the pchomeless.org website right now, I do see the coalition work group meeting is on the site. We still need to add the Race and Equity Committee.
I'll get that to you right away.
But there's a couple other things on the site you should check out as well. There's a Homelessness 101 training coming up on March 15th at 6 p.m. and a flyer and registration information listed on the page. And then earlier there was mention of the opioid summit that's on the 17th, and the flyer and registration for that are also on the page. All right, so let's shift over to any items for the good of the order, and I know Ed has something to share.
Talking too much. The Homeless Memorial service will be on the 20th of March at 5 o'clock at Shiloh Baptist Church, 13th and I, or yeah, 13th and I is the location. So please join us. As of right now, I have 28 that have died in the last 3 months, and I have yet to hear from the county. So we'll probably be somewhere in the mid 30s as far as people that have died with no recognition, or people that don't know that they've died. So
yeah. Thank you, Ed, for that, continuing that sobering work. Patricia?
I was just going to ask Ed if he's keeping track of the homelessness and the reasons that they're died, and like some data management so we can mitigate backwards.
oh yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh yes, all of the statistics that are able to be pulled in a balanced way are being pulled. And that's in Pierce County. That's not just in Tacoma.
Thank you. And then I did want to share that the Healthcare for the Homeless Network's National Conference will be May, I believe, 10th through the 13th. I will put a link in the chat as soon as I get it. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. One last question for you, Ed. Do you know, are you planning to do, or are there plans in the works for a live stream of that on the 20th?
Yeah, usually the live stream from Shiloh is on their website. So if we could have a link from, I don't know, the coalition site to theirs, so people could view it.
Okay. Yeah, I do know that they usually share those on their Facebook page, so we could probably link to that.
Okay.
Was that April 20th or March 20th? I kind of got that wrong.
March 20th.
March 20th. Okay. Okay. So it's right on the website then. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Other people with other items that would be useful for the group of 47 of us who are still in the meeting? All right. Well, I can't believe it. We're actually getting through today's meeting in time. Here's an opportunity. I do like to offer an opportunity at the end of every Friday's meeting for people to provide feedback on the content of today's meeting. And you can do that by raising your hand and letting us know what worked, what didn't work, what do you think we should do better next time. And also, if there are topics that you think we should cover in the upcoming meetings, this would be a great opportunity to share that. So I'll set aside some space now for that to happen. And I can be the king of awkward silence. So there we go. Tori.
Okay, I don't know if I missed something, but as far as this Meridian Estates mobile home park, Maggie and I, we need resources, some ideas for these residents who are in denial. There's a couple, a husband, wife, and the residents. I'm going to call them constitutionalists by some of the way they have some displays they have on their mobile home. And they're spreading a lot of misinformation to these residents, telling them not to open their doors to Maggie and I, saying that we are there to support and to enforce the eviction notice. We have some of the residents we have been able to contact. They will, we say, we're just here to offer a plan B, resources for a plan B, because everybody needs to have a plan B. So we haven't been enforcing, we've been very mindful of not shutting them down, saying that, well, your belief that there's a chance that you're not going to be evicted, blah, blah, blah. We have to be very careful, because this other couple is actually, they came to Puyallup City Council meeting, brought many residents with them. And we're just curious, we're just questioning what this couple, what their motivations are, because they're white, they speak English, they don't have a lack of funding to find new housing after October 1st. They have a lot of opportunities that many of the other residents do not. So at the city council meeting, none of the other residents spoke, and the mayor gave them several opportunities to speak. And so we're just at, we feel like we're swimming upstream, and they have the couple has these community meetings, and when we will make connection with one family, they'll invite us in. One time the wife was crying a little bit. We hugged her, saying, we know this doesn't seem fair, but everything's legit according to the law, according to what the city is telling us, the attorneys are telling us. The next day we go in, we say we have some resources, shut the door in our face after this community meeting. So we're there to offer resources, because it takes a long time to relocate. A lot of them aren't going to have the funding to relocate. A lot of them, their trailers, or excuse me, their homes are not movable. So anybody have any ideas or suggestions for any more resources we can give these people if they will open their doors to us? For example, where they could go, any available living options, because right now they're very angry, and a lot of them believe that they're going to stay, that this is not going to go through. Anyone?
Yeah, Teresa, it looks like you wanted to.
Yeah,
offer
so
something.
just a couple of, I have a couple of suggestions, but first I want to ask you a couple of questions. I'm
Sure,
assuming you already pass out flyers in Spanish language flyers that say what these options are and give them the resources that way.
Yes, ma'am. And we're both
And
Spanish speakers too.
Okay, so what I had, that gives me two, I assume that because you're a smart woman, but
Well, I don't know about that. I try. Thank you.
I have a couple of thoughts. One is that there are some groups in King County that are organized, that are Spanish speaking groups that are organized around other things. That might be a possibility to be in touch with them and ask them if they could offer services. I also thought about Tacoma Pro Bono, because they are a different organization that tries to prevent eviction and might be able to go in under that umbrella without whatever history has gotten built up from this couple. And then the third suggestion I have is, these people have a right to be angry. They are not going to find other places that cost anything like what they're paying now. And so the other option would be to join them in taking a stand and choosing to squat and not move, and whatever that would take. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you. A lot of the nonprofits, especially Latino nonprofits that we've reached out to, they are asking for money to help, interestingly enough. So, a lot of these residents, they're paying about $600 a month to stay there. and their lease is year to year. So, I mean, I don't want to say told you so, but you know, it's a year to year lease, but it's been, a lot of them have lived there for 18 years.
Jennifer?
So Tacoma Pro Bono, I know, had a client referred to them. Northwest Justice Project has a client.
Okay.
I obviously can't disclose who those people
Correct,
are.
correct.
We've looked at the notices. Maureen Howard was very involved with this.
Okay.
Before she had to go on medical leave.
Yes, yes.
And I know that there's a kind of an organizer there named Alicia. So if you could get connected with her, she might be able to help you connect with other people.
Yes. And now, is this her wife's name is Doug?
I don't know anything more than that.
Is she a resident?
Yes.
Okay.
She's a resident. She has apparently some pseudo legal background and is pursuing her own remedies.
Yes.
Heard.
She's the
unofficial
the couple of the they're the I reached out to her via email asking if we could work together. What I'm got hired for, not to enforce evictions, and she has not returned my email, and we have been told not to trespass, to stay away. So we don't want to cause additional conflict.
I know Maureen was pretty well connected with her. I might reach out to Maureen.
Okay.
And if she has a suggestion for you, can you drop your email in the chat?
Sure.
Provide
Yes,
that.
I will do that right now.
We lawyers, it's our opinion as well that, yeah, this has been done legally. It really sucks. We wish we could stop it, but we don't think we can. We have sort of one little argument in our back pocket, but it's weak enough. It's not worth sharing broadly. There is relocation assistance available, as I assume you know.
We don't have a lot of the we don't know a lot of the resources. We've been calling, and so far, go ahead.
Everyone received relocation packets.
Yes, they did.
And in there is the contact information for how to apply for that. We have been assured that there is more than enough money at this point that everyone could receive that. It's a significant amount. So
it is. The problem is
people realize, once people acknowledge that they are going to have to leave, then that's a good time to be applying for that, because it'll really help.
And that's what we have been trying to explain. But they've been told that if they fill out that paperwork, they will have to leave in 90 days. And
sorry.
No, that's okay. And then a lot of them will not fill it out because they don't fit the poverty level. Their income does not. So they would not qualify anyway, according to them. And so go ahead.
I'm not sure that's true about the poverty level. I'd have to double check that.
Okay.
I know we did talk to the folks who manage that fund, and they said the 90-day requirement doesn't start running until you actually cash the first check.
That's my understanding, yes.
What they do is they give you that first chunk, and then you have to be out within 90 days after that in order to get the second amount.
Correct. Yes.
If you don't move out within 90 days, it's not like someone's going to come after you for that first check. You just wouldn't get the second amount.
Correct. And that was my understanding too. But again, there's another force giving them different information.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any answers, you know.
I'll reach out to Maureen about that. Beyond that, I don't have any solutions.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you giving the information that you did, though. That's something. I'm just glad to know that we're on the same page. Yeah.
Great. And let's see, let's wrap up with, I see Patricia has her hand up.
We kind of touched on this through the meeting about like all the eviction moratoriums and those that have never been evicted before, the reasons why. And when in those conversations, people's first thought, if I get evicted, I'm going to go to my car. And then you also speak about like the gas prices. If somebody comes cross somebody, people don't know what they don't know, or the resources that are available, you know, what they're being told and the threats that come from the landlord, and how to rise about that from losing their home. I just want this to be on people's hearts and mind that this happened because of COVID, with a lot of some of these circumstances, and people are going to land on the street because of the circumstances that exist. And some of those that have a car, that's their first thought process, I'll just go to my car. But really the mindset of not moving into another place changes dynamics, and there's only so long that you can do those circumstances. You know, it's easier to get out and into the place when you already have a place than from the street or a car into another one. Thank you for letting me share.
Yeah, thank you, Patricia. All right, so I know we don't have all the answers for you, Tori, but hopefully those are some helpful resources. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today for this week's meeting. And I hope that everyone has a safe upcoming weekend, and we will see you back next Friday. If you have the capacity and interest, we will be doing a short planning meeting for next week's meeting immediately after this. But if you need to go, I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.